Okay, so member service agreement, again, hopefully it's a recap. You have already signed this. Picking up from where we left off yesterday, um, the AmeriCorps term of service is not employment. So if you were to leave service early or even complete your service term and not move on to your next employment opportunity or enter school or whatever your choice may be, you are not eligible to apply for unemployment benefits. So if we receive those, unfortunately, we just submit the documentation that we have to submit to show that AmeriCorps is not employment, that it is a service term. Um, your term of service lasts through July 31st of 2026. So you are, in a contract basically through that time, unless something happens and you have to leave service early. So if you are in this training right now, you have met these eligibility requirements, but maybe you know somebody that is interested in service, and these are things that you could share with them to show that to know whether or not they're eligible. So they have to be either a citizen, a national, or a lawful permanent resident of the United States. So we do have folks who are serving who have come to the United States as a lawful permanent resident. We ask that folks have obtained a high school diploma or its equivalent, or are agreeing to obtain a high school diploma or its equivalent once they're in the program. So while you don't have to have a high school diploma, we want to help you work towards one so that that's setting you up for success as you enter and exit the program for later on. And then you have to satisfy a national criminal history background check pursuant to all those fun. CFR is I forget what CFR stands for, but it's a federal rule. I can't remember what the C is. Anyway, that program rules don't mean that you can't have a criminal history in your background, but there are certain things that would prevent you from serving. Some programs have more stringent requirements about background checks than others. Our program does not. I think that our program is purposely welcoming to folks that may have convictions in their past, and I think, are definitely welcoming to folks who may have a criminal history. And sorry that that says Homes for All. I shouldn't say that. Um, so your member position description is something that you and your site supervisor sign together. And that I think that helps keep everybody on the same page about what your allowable service activities are, approved by our program and approved by our Serve Kentucky, our federal, our state partners, and then in turn approved by our federal agency because we pull it directly from our grant application that has been approved by our federal agency. It outlines the term of service, what your benefits are, what your eligibility requirements are. And again, you all sign it and then I sign off on it together. So it is in your America Learns account. If you have not yet signed it, it needs to be signed here within the first couple of weeks of service. So if you're waiting on your site supervisor to get to it, you can nudge them or I can nudge them if you haven't had an opportunity to go over it with them, or if you're just unsure about what the process should be, please reach out to me and I'm happy to help facilitate that. So, there are some unallowable activities and then prohibited activities. There's a difference between the two, as the words would say. So, unallowable activities are not necessarily prohibited, but they're not allowable. So, some examples out might include, we don't provide service at an animal shelter if you're serving in a health department. It might sound like it could qualify, but those are not outlined in your position description and your allowable activities. You are not necessarily you might think that you are providing service by preparing food, but if it's not in your position description, then it's not really an allowable activity. Going on a mission trip with a church or another group to provide service, if it's not in your position description, it's not an allowable activity. So, if you have a question about providing a service or an activity that isn't in your position description, just reach out and we can figure out a solution if it is an allowable activity or if it's not before you get going. And we have to reject a timesheet because you've done something that's not an allowable activity. So we do have some folks who are 1,200 and then some folks who are 900 hour members. You do have to complete your full term of service before you can earn your education award. You can go over on your hours, but you cannot go under. But we also don't want to see you go way over on your hours because you're going to burn out and there's really not an advantage to going over on your hours because you're not going to earn a larger education award and you're not going to earn a higher living allowance. We want to keep you pretty close to what your hourly commitment is. For our 1,200 hours, you know that you're doing roughly about 26 hours a week. For our 900-hour members, I think it's about 15. Um, your exact daily and weekly schedule is going to be decided on between you and your site supervisor. And we talked yesterday about America Learns being really great about showing what you need to average in order to stay on track with your hours. If you ever have a question about wanting to take some time off, is that going to put you behind? Just reach out, let me know. But again, America Learns is doing a really good job about showing what you need to average. So there are some activities that are required of you to participate in throughout the service year. You're participating in one of them right now. There is the Kentucky AmeriCorps Accelerator training that's put on by our Serve Kentucky, our State Service Commission. It's virtual. That's the one that's on October 22nd, I think. The CHW training, again, is only for new members in their first year of service, and it is virtual. And we'll have makeup training, not makeup, but there'll be several opportunities to complete that training. And if I will reach out to see if there's an opportunity, if there's just one day that is missed, if you can make that up, I'll try to figure that out. Um, Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service is a day on for AmeriCorps members as opposed to a day off. So that is a federal holiday, but for the AmeriCorps program and AmeriCorps members, it's a big day of service. And we'll talk more about that in our first monthly member training in October. If you're a returning member, you'll recall that it's really up to you to decide how you want to spend that day of service. It doesn't have to be a full day. Just we ask that you plan a day, a few hours of service with an organization in your community. If you'd like to partner with other members that are close by, that's great. And if actually, I'm gonna call some folks out. If you don't mind to type in the chat, if you're a returning member, what you did for MLK Day of Service last year, that might kind of get the wheels turning for some of our new members that are coming on board this year. Because again, it is where we are a statewide program. It's just hard for me to plan something because it doesn't really make sense for you all to travel to come to Frankfort to do a day of service for MLK Day because it also inevitably snows on MLK Day, so it's just hard to plan. End of year training and celebration. I'm hopeful for this to be an in-person gathering, but it will either be in June or July, and we'll go over kind of like how to utilize your education award and kind of wrap up the end of year and just come together as a group to celebrate your accomplishments and um, see what questions you may have about um, finishing up the year. So I'm catching up with the chat. Craig, I think you might be referring to the AmeriCorps Accelerator training that's put on by Surf Kentucky. So that was in person last year, and it will not be in person this year. It's going to be virtual, and it's just going to be one day. Is that when, like at the beginning of the year last year? Oh yeah, yeah, that's the one that's going to move to virtual this year. Thank you, a couple folks for sharing what you did for MLK Day last year. Um, so. Um, Monthly trainings, I mentioned those. Um, my hope is for those to be helpful as you go through this service year to hear from like guest speakers about things and opportunities and resources that you might not hear about from your local health departments or from me. And then it's a good way to check in. Um, with each other. If you've got questions or resources that you want to share or ask about from other members. So those are, sorry, they will not be on or around the 10th. I believe I've got them scheduled the first Wednesday of every month. So that's definitely not the 10th. That was from last year. So I apologize for not updating that slide. Um, so the biggest part of these required participation activities is that if you're going to be around, then you have to participate in these. You can't serve at your site instead of attending a training. I understand that things happen and life happens, and you've got families and you've got other commitments, and I feel like I'm a reasonable human being. I have things that pop up too. I might ask for some supporting documentation, but I don't really like to do that, so don't make me do that. Any questions about any of these trainings or activities or days of service?
I kind of have a schedule conflict with October 22nd, but I sent you a text message about it,
Okay.
so we can discuss it later.
Yeah, no worries. So, as far as time that you have available to take off, again, I think that this position is pretty flexible, and hopefully I've conveyed that when we have talked one-on-one. You have as a 1,200-hour member, 7 sick days, 7 vacation days, 900, three days of each. But the big thing to remember is that if you're not at your service site, if you're not serving, then you're not earning time towards your hourly commitment. So, um, the you could almost look at it as you have unlimited time to take off because you could take off a whole week and that's okay, as long as we knew about it. But it's just that you're not going to earn any time that week. So it's not like you have quote unquote paid vacation time or paid sick time. These are days that you would be off and you wouldn't have any time to input towards your hourly commitment that's going to get you towards the end of the year and towards your education award. So we want to just make sure that you're staying on track with your weekly hourly commitment and then just your overall hour commitment. These are holidays that you have to take off. So these are also going to be days that the health department's closed. I think these all coincide. Some that might not be the same are like the additional days off around like winter holiday. I'm not sure if every health department is closed on like Christmas Eve. And if they're not, and if you would like to, if you're going to be around anyway, and maybe you just want to take off a different day and you choose to serve, you can definitely choose to serve on a day that your health department is open. It's totally up to you, but you do not have to. It's your choice, but these are days that are built into your member service agreement that you have off. So these are your living allowance, your education award, your CHW training and certification. We pay for all these things. And then if you are somebody that has that you you've got student loans that you're paying for, you are eligible for loan forbearance and interest payments to pause. If you need more information on that, I can send it to you. I don't have a slide on it here, but I can help you with that. And there are some schools of thought that say you should not participate in that if you have the ability to continue paying on them. Do that, but also we understand that it is a financial commitment to be in the AmeriCorps program because you're not earning a lot of money. So if that's helpful for you to do this year, let me know and I can help you walk through that. We also have some support services through um, America Service Commission or ASC. Um, I will be sending you more information about how to access that. Excuse me, essentially it's like online mental health services. So if you're feeling burned out and you'd like to be able to talk with someone, you have that available to you. Um, I see that our guest has joined us, so I'm going to let her in and pause where we are so that we can switch gears and talk about WIC. So let me. Hi, Emily.
Hi, can you
Hi,
guys
thanks. Thank you for being here. Sorry, I think you cut out for just a second.
hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect.
We just paused. So if you are ready to talk to us about WIC, then I'll let you take over. You can share your screen if you've got um something like a PowerPoint or anything to share. Everybody, this is Emily. She's with the Lexington Fayette Health Department and is gonna talk with us about WIC today.
Yeah. So I do have a PowerPoint, so I'm
Okay.
gonna attempt to share my screen. Just bear with me.
Yeah.
Can you all see that?
There it is. Yes.
Okay. It went in and then it went out. So like Whitney said, my name's Emily. I am the WIC supervisor here at the Lexington Fayette County Health Department. I've been in this job about 2 years now, but I've actually worked in WIC for 9 years, almost 9 years. So I'm not new to WIC at all. It's pretty much been my career in public health. I actually started my first little background about myself. I started working at a health department in Michigan. That was my very first job out of grad school. I was a WIC nutrition specialist. I worked there for a year and a half. And then I actually there was a job opening that came here, and I was looking to move back to Kentucky. So I came to the Lexington Fayette County Health Department in 2018 and got a job as a nutrition specialist. And I did that job for 5 more years. And then I became the supervisor about 2 years ago. So I'm very passionate about WIC. It's a great program. I'm a second year, this is our second year to have an AmeriCorps worker with us. So we're really excited. So we have Lily with us this year. So far, she's been amazing. So I will get this going then in just 1 second. Okay, so just a little history about WIC. WIC actually began right here in Kentucky. It began in Pineville, Kentucky, which you know where that is. It's a very small town in eastern Kentucky. It started in January as a pilot program, January of 1974. So actually last year it was a really big deal. WIC actually celebrated 50 years. So it's pretty cool that it started right here in Kentucky. Um, Later on, WIC became a statewide program, and then it became a federal program. And now where we fall, we're under the umbrella of the USDA. So that's kind of our governing body. In that lower right-hand corner, you can see our WIC logo. That's the Kentucky logo. What's really interesting about WIC is it is a federal program, but it's run so different state by state. Even county by county does WIC very differently. So just because you worked in WIC in one state, when I worked there in Michigan, they did it very differently than we do here in Kentucky. So that's kind of an interesting fact. Just some benefits of WIC. So what they were finding is low income families were giving birth to babies that weren't extremely healthy or had more risk for adverse birth outcomes. So what they found over the years is WIC really helps moms to give birth to healthier babies. It's actually shown to reduce the birth weight by the low birth weight by 30% and the very low birth weight. So those little itty bitty babies that are born super prematurely by 50%. So that's pretty cool. It gives families the ability to purchase nutritious foods. WIC a lot of times gets confused with food stamps. Food stamps is a different federal program. It's SNAP. WIC, there's very specific items that you have to buy or that you're allowed to buy. It's things like fruits and vegetables, eggs, yogurt, cheese, milk. You're not going to be able to go to the store and just buy whatever you want. So it is a little bit different in that aspect. So we do try to have all the foods be of a high nutrition content. So because there are nutritious foods offered on WIC, that growth and development during infancy and childhood, especially during those first 5 years, is really important. And children that stay on WIC for the first 5 years of life, it's just associated with better overall diet quality at age 6 compared to those who only participate during infancy. So something we do unfortunately see a lot with WIC is we have a lot of people fall off the program when they turn 1. So a big thing we try to do is to, continue that outreach, continue that participation past the age of 1, because families get on WIC a lot of times to get help with the formula, and then they don't realize that we can actually help the child until the age of 5. So it's really important that they stay on that whole time to get the full benefit. So I kind of touched on this, but just some other rates to look at. The National Center for Health Statistics, the obesity rates among children 2 to 5 years decreased for those children that were on WIC. These are kind of older statistics. Back in 2004, it was decreased by 14%. In 2014, it was decreased by 9%. So that just kind of proves that the program's doing what it needs to do for these children. So who is WIC for? WIC stands for Women, Infants, and Children. So it's women who are pregnant, breastfeeding, or postpartum. So that could mean giving birth in the last 6 months, or that could even mean if you had like a miscarriage or other type of pregnancy loss, you would still qualify for the WIC program. Infants, that's kind of self-explanatory. That's from birth up until the age of 1. And then that the children component, that's from 1 year of age to their 5th birthday. So that's, like I said, when we really see a lot of people fall off the program in WIC, is from that 1 year mark. So we do a lot of outreach to try to keep them on. So how does someone qualify for WIC? WIC is an income-based program. So there's a couple of different ways you can qualify. The most common way that people qualify, I'd probably say 85%, is they have Medicaid. So if you have Medicaid, then you automatically qualify for the WIC program. You don't have to show us any other types of proofs. Another way to qualify for the WIC program is if you're already receiving food stamps. There's also a couple of other types of Medicaid and assistance programs. I won't go into detail about them, but KTAP, KCHIP, all of those would qualify for you for the program. If for some reason you didn't have Medicaid or food stamps, you can still qualify for the program. It's just going to be, you have to qualify based on your household income. So your household income is going to be the number of people that live in your household. And then there's kind of a ratio that we do. It's like a formula that the computer will do to see if they qualify and see if they're at that 185th percent of poverty or below. So any one of those ways would qualify you for WIC. So what all does WIC provide? So of course we do provide those nutritious food items. We provide formula if needed. It's also a big component of WIC is also just the nutrition education portion of the program. So when people have their WIC appointments, they meet actually with a nutritionist or with a nurse. Those are the two people that can give the WIC information. They do the nutrition assessment. That includes doing checking height, weight, iron. They do one-on-one education with the family based on what comes out of that nutrition assessment. And then they also do breastfeeding support if applicable. And then a big part of WIC is really referring other individuals to other health and social services. So some of those programs are within the health department. Some of those are out in the community. We try really hard here to hook. I know you all talked to Dave, or Dave did a talk yesterday about hands. We try really hard to link our WIC patients up with hands. So hands does a really good job of promoting WIC. And then in WIC, we try to do the same for hands because they really go hand in hand. With the type of, it's the same group of people. And then just as far as community resources, I mean, we have people that need all types of different resources. We refer a lot of people to the Nest who need like extra money, or not extra money, but extra assistance for diapers, clothing. They can help with extra formula that WIC can't cover. We do a lot of local food banks. Right now, we're actually doing through God's Pantry. We're doing the Thanksgiving food baskets. It's pretty crazy that we're already doing that, but it's September. Thanksgiving will be here before you know it. So we refer families for that. That way they have something to eat on Thanksgiving. So I try, and this is one of the great things about having an AmeriCorps worker. is we can really do outreach and make connections with those community partners. And then that way, we can refer the clients to those services. So it's been really a great collaboration over the past year. And then the last little piece of it is during the summer months, something really cool we offer is we do did someone put something in the chat?
It was me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's some more information about the nest. So another really cool thing we do during the summer is called our farmers market program. So it's completely separate from the household WIC benefits. So if they're on WIC, they can actually get $30 a person to go spend at the local farmers market. That's a grant that the WIC, the state WIC office gets every year. This year we got, I think it was $11,000 that we were able to give out to Fayette County. So it's just a way that we can get people to eat more different types of fruits and vegetables. What's nice about farmers markets is they're located all over Lexington, so they can go to the place that's closest to where they live. And like I said, that's completely separate from the fruits and vegetables that they're already getting on WIC. And then we do, the way that comes is it's changed a lot over the years. We used to give out like physical farmers market vouchers. What we give out now is you can download an app because everything has an app now. Or you can actually, if they don't want to do an app or they don't have a smartphone, they can do a farmer's market card that they can take and use directly at the farmer's market. All right. So every 5 years, a fun thing the state WIC office gets to do, not me at the local level, is they put a bid out for our formula contract. So I won't dive too deep into the depths of formula because I could go very far. But there's three main formula companies in the United States. There's Similac, Infamil, and then also Gerber. So for years and years, Fayette County had Gerber. Just a couple years ago, the contract changed and we now contract with Similac. So what that means is in order to be able to give more WIC families formula at cost is all WIC participants do have to try or be on Similac formula first. Now, we do have situations where there's medically fragile children and they need special formulas or they have to do an off-brand formula. And there's guidelines for that. We can definitely cover it, but it's required to have this contract just so our money, our WIC money can go further. So like I said, here in Fayette County, we do have a contract with Similac. And I think the next slide will go over, yeah, those are the cans of formula that we covered. So there's the Similac Advance, which is just kind of the basic formula. The Similac Sensitive in the orange and the Similac Total Comfort in the purple. Those are more sensitive formulas. They have less lactose in it. So it's made for babies that have like slightly sensitive stomachs. We also offer the Similac Soy. So if baby has a complete like milk protein allergy, we can offer them the Similac Soy. Now, if they have some type of allergy, they might need another type of formula, like a hypoallergenic formula. And we can definitely accommodate that, but it does require a prescription from the doctor. But these are the four main formulas that we cover on WIC. Okay. So what do clients learn when they meet with us for their WIC appointment? Um, we kind of base it on, and it's funny because this is broken up to women, infants, and children. But what happens a lot of times is you have families that are all on WIC. So you kind of have to end up talking about all these different topics. So just some examples for each category. With women, we always try to talk about healthy eating while pregnant, healthy eating after having the baby. We always do breastfeeding counseling and provide referrals for that if they need that. And then we also just discuss how to meet your individual nutrition needs. With infants, a big one is just best feeding practices for your baby, whether that be formula or breastfeeding. And just in general, how to keep your baby healthy. So we always talk about safe sleep during our WIC appointments. We always talk about smoking, drugs, alcohol, all that type of use in the home. And then we make referrals, as we need to. With children, for those 1 to 5, it's really how to feed your growing child, and how to make healthy choices for your child. If any of you have children at this age, you probably know, they tend to be picky eaters, and that's completely normal. I would say, just from my years of experience on WIC, that's probably the number one question we get asked is, why is my child so picky? And so we do talk about that a lot with that age group. And just talking about the importance of, offering fruits and vegetables. And, you can offer a fruit and vegetable, they say, up to 15 times before a child will even touch it, or sometimes just put it in their mouth and then spit it back out. So, we go into detail with that during all of our appointments. But like I said, you kind of have to incorporate family eating into that, just because, you're talking to the mom, and then the mom might have a baby, and then the baby has a sibling that's also on WIC. So it's trying to incorporate and tailor those needs and those goals for the whole family as well. So right now, I can give you a little history on it. WIC prior to COVID, you absolutely had to come in person. You had to bring your child with you every single visit, every single time. And they are required to come in, or they were required to come in every 3 months. So during COVID, just like with a lot of other agencies, we had to adapt to what was going on. So for about 4 years, we only did WIC over the phone. And it wasn't like a face-to-face telehealth type appointment. It was literally just talking on a headset, doing the call over the phone, which is not very personal, as you can imagine. Where we're at now is we're kind of doing a hybrid. So we're trying to get back to that in-person visit, especially for the certification visits that they have to complete once a year. It's really important for us to lay eyes on that child at least once a year. You just want to make sure that they're fed, clothed, there's no type of abuse going on in the home. It's just important to have that in-person contact at least once a year. So we're trying to get back to doing the mixture of in-person and phone. We call them remote appointments. The USDA actually has a waiver right now in place that says we can do WIC completely remote until September of 2026. The reason that was put in place was because of COVID. But what they also found is people just have a lot of barriers. The number one barrier being transportation. So it's so hard. I mean, our families, most of them don't have cars. So they're taking the bus here. They're walking. They're trying to find rides. So doing it over the phone, really reduces that barrier of them getting their WIC and feeding their family. So we like to see people in person, but we don't force people to come in person, if that makes sense. Now if they do come in person, well, either way, they have to show us these proofs. So they can either text us these proofs, we have a secure texting line, or they can bring these in person. So every single time that they do a certification visit, they have to have the parent or guardian ID. They have to have some form of ID for the child or infant. With infants, that can get a little tricky just because when you're first born, you don't have your social security card, you don't have anything with your name on it really. So a lot of times we'll just let people send us like the little footprints that they'll send you home at the hospital with. That just has your name, height, or birth weight, birth length, all those things. That counts. You do have to have proof of residency. So you have to reside in Fayette County in order to get WIC in Fayette County. So we'll have people that call sometimes and they'll give us an address that's like an hour away, and we're like, hey, why aren't you getting it in so and so county? So that's why they require that proof of residency. You do have to provide proof of income if that's how you're being qualified for the program. I kind of touched on that earlier. If you have Medicaid, though, you don't have to have that proof of income. So, with Medicaid, though, we have to have proof that you're on Medicaid, though. So, they have to bring a medical card in with them, or they have to, there's a healthcare system that we use that we can actually look them and their family members up and see if they have active Medicaid. Sometimes it is unfortunate because we'll look them up in that system and their Medicaid's lapsed. So then we have to tell them, hey, we can still qualify you for the program, but we're going to have to use income today and because your Medicaid isn't active. And then this is a little bit outdated, but any person that's being added onto WIC really does need to be here in person. And that's just because we like to check height, weight, and iron, just so we can look at growth charts, make sure everything's good in that aspect. But like I said, we are doing hybrid, kind of a hybrid model. We're doing, I would say, 85% of our appointments over the phone and maybe 15% in person. So during the visit, the participant, like I think I mentioned this earlier, they'll complete a nutrition assessment. They'll do that with their nurse or with the nutritionist they meet with. The nutritionist will talk about healthy choices that they can make for their families, any health concerns that they have, any questions that they have. At that appointment, they're going to receive an e-WIC card that they can use at the store. So years ago, WIC had paper vouchers, and I think all states now have the WIC card. It was kind of a slow transition from those vouchers to the WIC card. But I think all states have the WIC card now. So the card's really nice because you can just swipe it just like you would a debit card. It doesn't look any different than any other card, so no one knows that it's a WIC card when you're at the grocery store. And that's going to allow you to get all the WIC foods that you were allotted that month. And then one of the big things we do is we make you a follow-up appointment in 1 to 3 months, depending on when you're due to come back in. This PowerPoint was made over a year ago, so it's a little bit different now. We actually do same-day appointments, which was a big transition for our clinic. It was difficult at first to get everyone on board, but it's really worked out well. Because what people can do is the day that they have off, whatever day that may fall on, they can give us a call and then just make an appointment that same day. What we were finding is people weren't keeping their appointments. So we were completely booked. Our schedules were booked for months and months and months. And we couldn't get people in. And then what we found was half the schedule wouldn't even keep the appointment that we had for them. So they were essentially wasted time slots. And those are people we could have helped. So the same day appointments have really helped fix that issue. It's not a perfect system. We're still, there's still a lot of kinks that we're working out. But I've been very pleased with how it's been going the past 6 months. And I don't think I mentioned this, but here in Fayette County, and I don't think this is on any of the slides, but we actually have close to 7,000 participants on the WIC program. We're one of the biggest health departments in Kentucky. I would say us, Northern Kentucky, and Louisville probably has the biggest WIC offices. Every county has to have a WIC office. Some counties are, which you may know this just because you're in AmeriCorps. Some of the counties are like clumped together, so they cover like a couple different counties in one health department. But here in Fayette County, we do have around 7,000 participants at any given time. Okay, so I've mentioned the EBT card that they get. When they come to their appointment, or we'll mail this information to them, depending if it's a remote appointment or not. They will also get a WIC approved food brochure. So the brochure is nice because it actually has pictures of all the different food items that they can get on WIC. Like I said, this is a little bit outdated because there also is a WIC shopper app now, which I'll talk about in a minute. We really encourage people, if they're able to get the app. The brochure is nice, but as you know, with any type of paper, it gets lost, it gets crumpled up, you spill juice on it. So having the app on your phone is really beneficial just to know what foods you can get on WIC. And your benefits list is really tailored to whatever your status is. So with a woman, that can be several different things. You might be getting a pregnant food package. You could be getting a postpartum food package, which just means you're not breastfeeding, but you're in that postpartum time frame. If you're fully breastfeeding, you do get a little bit more food, just because we want to give you more nutrients and foods to support you and the baby that you're feeding. For infant, you can do a mixture of these, but it's either a breastfeeding food package or a formula fed food package. During the first 6 months of life, we only offer the formula, or you're given breast milk. At 6 months of age, you're offered baby foods. So that's when they're recommended to start adding complementary foods. And we also add infant cereal on the food package at 6 months of age. And then with children, it's just usually there's a standard child food package unless there's some type of medical need. So like I said, we do have some medically fragile children that have like G-tubes or special medical conditions that require special diets. And of course, we accommodate those the best that we can. There's special food packages we can give them as long as we have a prescription from the doctor. Because that prescription really has to come from the doctor. That's not a decision that we can make. And then this is information about that WIC shopper app that I was telling you about. This just kind of goes over the steps on how you can download it. This is where we really try to get people to download the app just because that brochure, like I said, it gets lost, it gets trampled on, whatever. This is a newer thing that the state WIC office has put out, and it's just been really helpful because you can even use the app it lets you scan the barcodes of food items when you're at the store, and it'll tell you whether or not you can get that food item on the WIC program. So it'll let you scan, that's one of the things we found with WIC is there is a big disconnect between, coming in for your WIC appointment, getting the food, and then it's a whole nother story when you actually go to the store and actually try to find those foods on your own. It is confusing. And we do have a lot of participants that English isn't their first language. So, and unfortunately, that brochure only comes in English and Spanish. So the app can be translated into lots of different languages. So it's just a really cool feature to have. All right, there's my references. And I'm happy to take any and all questions. I saw something in the chat pop up. Oh, okay. Yeah, so feel free to unmute yourself or put something in the chat. I feel like that was a lot, but
It's very helpful. Thank you. I was trying to think, she might, I don't know if she can tell us. We have one member who does quite a bit with WIC.
okay.
I'm gonna put her on the spot. Lauren, is there anything you would like to add? Because she is in a whole different part of the state. She is in far western Kentucky.
Yeah.
No, not really. I think she covered everything. My nurses and all that really do the WIC stuff, and I help out, but everything she said I agreed with, and is basically what we do as well. So I don't have much. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
Lauren.
of course.
Yeah, and that's one thing about WIC too, is a lot of the smaller health departments, the way they're set up is, and it's not even the smaller ones, because we do this too. Nurses actually do WIC appointments, but then they also do like immunization appointments and STI appointments. So they're kind of used in a all-encompassing way. So that's kind of the model that a lot of health departments do follow.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay. Well, thank you, Emily. I appreciate you joining us and sharing information.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right.
All right, thank you. Have a good
All
day.
right. See you.
Bye.
Okay, y'all. Let me, I think this worked best when um, I'll tell you what, do you all want to take a quick break and then we'll come back?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right, let's take a 7-minute break and then we'll be back at 10:40. And I realized I have forgot to hit record. So I'm gonna record this for our members that couldn't be here for this part of the training. So um thanks for being here. I'm gonna turn it over. You can't share your screen, so
Okay,
thank you.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for having us. My name is Laura Irick, and I'm the administrator for the Kentucky Office of Community Health Workers. Tracy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Trying to get I don't know what's going on with my background. I'm trying to fix it. I'm Tracy Sparks. I'm with the Office of Community Health Workers, and I'm the certification coordinator.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And just to give some of you a background, if you're already certified, you might not need this information. This is more for the new members who are just coming on. But of course, since we're the Office of Community Health Workers, we deal with all things CHW. So if you have questions that are not addressed, like if, anything about renewal or continuing education that we might not really get into in this specific presentation, you can absolutely ask us. We kept it relatively short because I know that you have a lot of presentations and materials and paperwork to go through during your member orientation today. So trying to keep it informational, but not overwhelming. So just so you know, we're always available for any community health worker in Kentucky. So if you think of questions after, our email will be on there. You can always email us, call us, we're here to support you. Now let's see if this cooperates. Aha. All right. So I'm not, like I said, we're not doing the whole big background presentation today. This is the nitty-gritty down to just what you really need to know. But I do like to make sure that we're starting off kind of on the same level, essentially, and we're all understanding what the definition of a community health worker is. And here in Kentucky, we use the definition that was actually created by the American Public Health Association CHW work group back in 2018. So that definition is incorporated into Kentucky, and it's a frontline public health worker, so non-clinical public health workers that are the boots on the ground, right? They are walking the walk and they're talking the talk. They are from the communities that they're serving, and because of that, there's a trust between the community health worker and their community that, quite frankly, we don't always see with regular public health practitioners or healthcare providers, right? We know that there's a lot of mistrust within those systems for very good reasons. And because of that trust, community health workers are able to help their community overcome barriers, access services, and lead healthier lives in a way that others really can't. And so I like the image there on the right. We always like to use that. So community health worker it's a profession, right? It is a calling for many of us, but it can also be used as an umbrella term. There are lots of different names that fall under this community health worker umbrella. So you might be going by a different name within your organization, or your human resources designates you as some sort of a title, but you're still doing the work of a community health worker. So you can see some of the titles here, like community health representative, promotora de salud, health advisor, outreach worker. All of these fall under that umbrella. And so it's true here, right? Y'all are AmeriCorps members, but the service that you're doing is that of a community health worker. And now, what do? You already heard me talk about it a little bit. We do all things CHW. So our whole purpose at the Office of Community Health Workers is to strengthen, support, and promote the sustainability of the community health worker profession. So one of the biggest things we do is certification. Some people call it credentialing. So we are the official credentialing or certifying body for community health workers in Kentucky. We also are in charge of the renewal. We also approve the continuing education, which is what you need to complete your renewal to maintain that certification. But we also do a lot of statewide work groups to help advance the profession. So we have the statewide advisory work group that provides a lot of support and updates. And then we have subgroups. We work on special topics of interest to community health workers. So for example, the last few years, we've had a subcommittee and we've been working on creating specialized certificates for community health workers. And we're one of only, I think, 3 or 4 states in the country that are actually doing that. And so we have CHWs and allies and subject matter experts working together, to do these things to advance the CHW profession. We measure and document impact. I don't know if you've seen that, if you subscribe to the Coach Connection or not, which you should. We'll talk about that. But we are doing a statewide CHW survey right now. And that's going to help us collect kind of like a baseline data about CHWs and standardized data. And that's going to allow us to compare our workforce of CHWs to CHW workforces all across the United States. We also approve our training organizations. So you're all going through or may have already gone through the foundational community health worker training. Those organizations have to go through a pretty rigorous application and review process to make sure that they're not just putting random things out there that are not aligned with our policies or the state laws or the scope of CHW practice. So that's like a high level overview of what we're doing. But if you just remember that we're here to support CHWs, that's good enough. So today we're primarily here to talk about certification. So certification in Kentucky is a voluntary credential that recognizes the demonstration of the CHW core competencies. You might get tired of me talking about it, but literally everything always goes back to the competencies, because competencies are those baseline, that foundation of skills that every single CHW is expected to be able to demonstrate, either through completion of their training and mentorship or a related work experience. So these are the competencies here. I'm not going to go through them today, but we do expect that every community health worker is familiar with these. You don't have to memorize them, but you should be familiar with the topics and read through them. And that is in the community health worker manual that's on our website. It's pretty thorough because each competency has sub-competencies, and those are the things that you're expected to be able to do. So like I said, you should be familiar with that. You should be able to demonstrate that. And once you can, then you will be able to apply for and be credentialed or certified in Kentucky. And I didn't cover it in that slide, but there are a lot of benefits to certification. I know it is voluntary. However, if you or your organization wants to bill Medicaid for your CHW services, you have to be certified. But it also lets other people know that you have met a certain standard that has been agreed upon, right, by CHWs and by the state. And so it tells people that you're working with, it tells your community that you're working with, that you're serving, that you have met those standards, and that you can provide a certain level of support and care. It also keeps you up to date on, the most changes in public health, in science, and data, best practices, because you have to earn continuing education. It helps keep you up to date with all the things that you need to know as a community health worker. And I think the most important benefit is that we pursued certification in Kentucky because our Kentucky CHWs wanted it. So we felt that it was very important that we weren't going to, require something if the profession as a whole didn't want it. But CHWs, when we started pursuing this, were very passionate about having certification as an option here. So let's talk about the requirements. What do you need to apply for certification? First and foremost, you have to be 18 years old, a U.S. citizen or a legal resident. You have to live or work in Kentucky. So we do have some certified CHWs that might work over the border in Indiana or maybe like Cincinnati, but their jobs are in Kentucky. They're in Louisville or, Northern Kentucky. So they can, be certified in Kentucky. But if somebody lived and worked in Indiana, they can't get certified in Kentucky. Of course, we're going back to those core competencies, right? You have to demonstrate those core competencies, and that's all verified. We verify your training, we verify your mentorship, all sorts of verification. And then once you have all that done, you'll have to submit an application and pay the fee. And I'm sure you'll hear Tracy talk about this, but like submitting an application is not the same as actually becoming certified. There's a whole review process on our end, and you're not certified till you actually, get your number and the state, says it's all well and good. And Tracy will go through that. started to touch on this, but there are some expectations. Once you're certified and you have that official certification, we're expecting that one, you're working within the scope of a community health worker, right? When we talked about the definition of CHWs, I made sure to emphasize that CHWs are not clinical. So you're not out there trying to practice as a nurse. Unless you are a nurse and duly credentialed, and that's very different. But if you are a CHW, you're not trying to diagnose people. You're working within the scope of a CHW. Also making sure that people in your organization aren't trying to get you to do things that are not within your scope of a CHW. We do see that sometimes. We expect that you have read the manual in its entirety. It's not as long as you might think. I know it's not the most exciting read, but it is very important for professional CHWs to be familiar with what's in the manual, familiar with the core competencies, and also familiar with the code of ethics. There is a code of ethics and you are expected to adhere to it. You sign and you attest in your application that you've actually read these and you're familiar. Because if you violate the code of ethics, that can lead to suspensions or revocations. And nobody wants that. We expect that you're going to obtain 10 hours of continuing education a year in order to maintain or keep that certification. They've got to be related to the core competencies. And then you're expected to keep that documentation in case we select you for an audit. You'd have to be able to provide that documentation. And then if things change, this happens, your job changes, your email got hacked, so you've got to change your email, your phone number, you got a new phone number. We expect that you're going to tell us that because that's how we keep in contact with you. So you're expected to report those changes to us. I think is this where I hand it off to you, Tracy? Nope, I think I have three. Do I have 3 more slides? Okay, just kidding. I knew that. I've got a couple more slides. All right, so there are 2 pathways to certification in Kentucky. We're just going to talk about the training and mentorship pathway because that is the pathway that all of the AmeriCorps members are taking with this particular program. So the 3 components of the training and mentorship pathway are the 40 hours of foundational competency-based training. So that's your CHW training that you'll go through. The 8 hours of mental health first aid, and then an additional 40 hours or more, usually people do more, but minimum of 40 hours of mentorship or field work. I want to quickly touch on mentorship because I think people get a little bit confused. But before I do that, obviously, and this is not an issue for you all, but your training has to be through an approved organization. And when you apply, you'll have to upload that certificate of completion or the training record from that, whichever training organization you've gone through. And let's say something happened, you did your training and your mentorship this year and something happened and you didn't get around to actually applying for certification until a year from now, we will still accept those documents. If for some reason you waited and it's been like 5 years, we can't accept that. So we'll accept anything within that 3-year window from the date of your application. And this is where I wanted to clarify mentorship a little bit. I think people get tripped up with mentorship. You can think of it as a field experience if that is better, but basically it's a supervised experience where you as a newly trained CHW are working either with an experienced community health worker or a supervisor, someone at your organization to practice those skills that you learned in your training, right? So this is used to see if you can actually demonstrate the core competencies, demonstrate those skills. But it's also an opportunity to, get clarification, engage in discussion, and kind of build your confidence before you're out on your own, so to speak. So you have to have a minimum of those 40 hours of the mentorship. And some of the activities that we recommend for your mentorship are listed here. This is not like all encompassing, but it gives you an idea. So for example, you could be visiting with a client and the first time maybe you are shadowing your mentor. You're just seeing how it goes. How do they interact with the client? What kind of questions are they asking? what kind of assessments are they doing? How are they getting them access to their resources? How are they documenting that kind of stuff? So maybe shadowing your mentor for a couple of times. And then after those, each time they have that client meeting, have a discussion with them, ask questions, clarifying questions, learn how they're doing what they're doing. When you feel more comfortable, we recommend switching it, right? So you're the one leading those interactions, those meetings, those client appointments, and your mentor is observing. They could step in, if really needed, but you're the one who's supposed to be leading it at that time, and then still engaging in that reflection afterwards. And that's a good time for the mentor to potentially, suggest alternative ways of going about something, or suggestions for improvement, or also to give you compliments if you did something really, really well. It's a good time for that. Some people, before they even get to that, like to do things like role play scenarios and case studies. I know role play can maybe feel a bit silly. You're sitting in an office pretending, but it's really helpful to go through. And case studies are too. If you are more of somebody who likes to read out examples, having your mentor or somebody come up with the scenarios, and you have to read the case study and talk through or write through exactly what you would do step by step to help that client. I found that is helpful, especially before starting the supervised visits, because it gives you a chance with less pressure to figure out how you would approach different kinds of situations. And again, these are just examples of what we find to be really helpful and beneficial for CHWs during that mentor time. The thing I do want to reiterate or emphasize is, while shadowing is helpful and important, I do not recommend that more than half of your time is shadowing. You should really be engaging in active demonstration of those core competencies, right? You should be out there leading the client visits, so doing case studies, meeting with community members, attending community meetings. I don't recommend that you're spending 80% of your time shadowing, because you're not getting the chance to demonstrate and practice those skills. Okay, now I believe it is Tracy's turn. Haha, I was right. Look at me.
It is my turn. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to talk about how to be certified. So there's a few steps that we're going to go through, and if you have any questions, you can let me know. You can hold them to the end, and then we will be glad to answer your questions. Step one, as Laura had said before, we need you to read the certification manual. It's very important. Like she said, it will let you know everything that you need to know, what's in your manual, how to be certified, what documents that you will need, and the process and how to do that. Second, make sure that your $50 non-refundable fee is paid to the coach, and I believe AmeriCorps does that for you, but it's always good to check to make sure that your fee has been paid before you go on through the process. So we'll go to the next screen. Oh, there we go. Step 3, we need to identify your professional reference. If you want to, you can ask them before to give you a professional reference, and this needs to be on letterhead. And also make sure that your letter is signed by your professional reference person at that time before they hand it over to you. Make sure that they understand what you need in the letter, like Laura just talked about. We like to see a professional reference laid out with the 8 core competencies listed and what you did to be able to achieve those 8 core competencies. Those are great letters, and if you can do that, if all possible, that would be wonderful. But if not, please list some things that you did during your mentorship and your training and different things. That kind of gives us an idea of what you did, during your 40 hours that you were with.
And I would also say that it needs to speak to your qualifications as a professional, because this is a reference. So it needs to talk to you first and foremost as, your qualifications. It's great to add all the core competencies and, to show us what you did in your mentorship, but at its core, the reference, think of it as a recommendation. It needs to talk about you as an individual and the qualities that you bring that would be beneficial to the CHW credential.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then step 4, make sure that you have an updated photo. Please take from your shoulders up. Do not use any type of filters. of any kind. We like to have it like a plain background. No, white is the best, but if you could have a plain background, that would be great. And just take from your shoulders up. And the next step. In step 5, gather your required materials in your training and mentorship track. Make sure that you have your certificate that you received during your 40-hour training. Make sure you have your mental health first aid certificate, and because you will be asked to upload those along with your photo and your professional reference and different things like that. And then step 6, make sure that you finish filling out your application. Make sure that you do mark it complete, because on our end, we're going to see that it's incomplete. And a lot of times it doesn't get reviewed until it's marked completed. And of course, you'll probably email us and ask where your process is, and we'll tell you what's going on. But anyway, please make sure that you complete your application, and it says that it is complete before you go away from it. And yes, and make sure you have the most updated email, phone number, as Laura said. Make sure that you have the most updated date of birth, and different things like that. Just make sure you have the most updated email for sure, because we do, like Laura said, contact you through email before we call you. We try to email you first and make sure it's an email that you check all the time and not one that you just check every now and then. Next. Complete the online application. Save your code if you need to get back into your application. You sometimes after you finish your application, you'll get a code, and please make sure that you save that in case you need to get back into it. Check your email frequently for any questions related to your application, and also make sure you keep up with that. Processing and notification. It can take up to 60 days to process and complete your application once we receive all of your information. If an application is missing materials or may have an error in it, it may take longer to process. And like we said, we will notify you by email to be able to get this information. And we will let you know, if you're approved or disapproved and what your issues are. And so always make sure that you check your email frequently. And then after that, we do that and get it approved, and then we will send a certificate to your home address, and this could take up to 30 days after you are approved, but you will get an email stating your number and when all your trainings that you have to, for continuing education. So when it is your renewal time, you will have that information with you. And if you move, please notify us in writing. If your last name changes, please make sure that you send us the correct documentation stating that your last name changed for what reason. And so always make sure that we have the most updated information. We cannot stress that enough, please. Next. The abbreviation that you will put on the extension of your name will be CCHW, which is Certified Community Health Worker. It can be used on once your application receives official notification, and that is your email. Like I said, you will receive with your number, your certification number, and then you can start using it on your names. You can use it on your signature lines, business cards, resumes, registrations. You will for sure need to keep up with your number. Try to keep a copy of it in your phone, memorize it however you can, because you will need it after you do your trainings. Sometimes, especially if it's a coach approved, they will ask you for your certification number. You'll come to a conference. You may need to keep up with that to be able to prove that you are a certified community health worker. So always keep up with your number. And if you have any questions, you can always email us. And then we also have a registry out on our website that you can click on, and your numbers are listed out there. So if you're at a conference and you can't remember it or whatever, you can always go to our website, and it is listed under the registration. Next. This is an area we really don't like to talk about much, but that does happen from time to time. We have denials, appeals, and suspensions, revocations. If you have not met the eligibility of the application requirements set out in the manual, or you failed to refuse to properly complete or submit any required information, you may present false information, misleading information on the application process, or you're on the Medicaid exclusion list. you've engaged in unethical conduct while you're a CHW, and always please, like we said during the manual, make sure you read your code of ethics so you understand what you're to stand by as a CHW, or you've been convicted of a felony or misdemeanor directly related to your duties or responsibilities as a CHW. Appeals if a CHW determines that the application should not be approved, the applicant will be receiving a notice through the mail, through email, and I think we also send a letter out to certified so that you can receive it. And then also there could be suspensions or revocations, like we talked about earlier about the code of ethics. If somebody reports that you're doing something, illegal, then we will check into that and contact you and let you know. Next. We're going to talk about continuing education. As a certified community health worker, you need to obtain every year 10 hours of continuing education units. 5 need to come from coach-approved trainings, and 5 can come from independent trainings where your organization may have you require you to take certain trainings and you get continuing education. You can use those towards your 10, but or you can do all 10 with coach-approved trainings, either one. So that's up to your organization how they want you to do that, but you would need to at least keep 10 required CEUs each year. Next. Coach approved trainings. For a training to be approved, a training organization must fill out a CE approval form. The coach staff will review the training to ensure that it's relevant and meets the CHW core competencies. And once the training is approved, the training organization will have the name, the title of training, the date, and the name of the CHW on the certificate. And all approved trainings will have a statement at the bottom of the certificate, and it will say this statement that the training has been approved by the Kentucky Department of Public Health of the community health workers to provide X amount of CEU. So it could say 5 to maybe 0.50, whatever the training could be, education units for the certified community health worker. So if it has that statement on the bottom of the certificate, then you know that has been approved by the coach office. Next. And then your independent trainings. That are those that you have not gone through the review of our process in the coach office. Examples of independent trainings could be CHW related webinars, internal trainings from your organization, like I said before, and any independent training needs to be relevant to the CHW profession and related to the CHW core competencies. You can't send in the certificate, of knitting, or watching TV or watching some kind of program. It has to be related to your job and your profession that you're taking care of. Next. And how do I find coach approved trainings? You can look at the coach connection. If you're not in the coach connection, we suggest that you do sign up for those, because we do list all trainings that have been approved through the coach office. And then also the Kentucky Association of Community Health Workers, which is the association I'm sure you all have heard the kayak. And so you can go to those trainings. They have them like every quarter, and you can attend those and receive CEUs for that also. Next. Sample certificate, like I was talking about, that are coach approved. Number 1, it'll have the name of the CHW on there. 2, it'll have the training organization. 3, it'll have the title of the training. Number 4 will be the date, and all your CE statement will be at the bottom. So this is what a coach approved training certificate will look like. Next. And for renewal requirements, each year you are required to renew every October, from October 1st through October 31st. And like we talked about, you need to be a current resident of Kentucky or currently working in Kentucky. You need to be a legal residency in the United States. You need to complete your 10 CEU hours for the year. You will submit a completed application, and then you'll need to pay your $25 non-refundable renewal fee for your application. And this is required again. I'm going to say this again. It is every October 1st through the 31st each year. Next. All CHWs are required to complete the following trainings. Once you become certified, we need you to take your geriatric health training, your oral health training, and your maternal and child health training. All 3 of these trainings are located on the Kentucky Train. And newly certified CHWs must complete within the year of certification. So if you were to be certified today, you would have until your renewal, you would have a year to be able to take your classes. It's not like you have to take them within the next 30 days or whatever, but you do have a year to be able to get those done before your renewal. Next.
I just want to add that this is required by law,
Yeah.
so there is no wiggle room on this. They must be completed. We're not just making it up for fun. It is a law. So I want to make sure because so people don't get like frustrated at Tracy for telling people that they need to do this. It is in state law. We are enforcing it.
And once you claim the CEUs for these trainings, you cannot use those each year. So I just want to reiterate that also. And we do have resources as a CHW can, or a certified CHW can use. And we have like I said, CHW advisory work group every quarter, January, April, July, and October that you can attend. We have the Coach Connection. Like I said, it comes out every 2 weeks. And this is where you'll learn about your certification, upcoming trainings, different resources. Sometimes we put things out there to help the CHWs, where to find resources at, and different things like that. And then also we have our Coach website, which lists our upcoming trainings, certification, the manual, application material, stories of success. Like I said, there's the roster out there with the community health workers numbers on there. There's just a lot of good information. So if you can tap into these resources, they will really help you as a CHW, and I'm sure they can answer a lot of questions to help you. Next. And that's all I have at this time. Thank you for allowing me to speak. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat or you can come off mute and ask away.
Thank you all. Does anybody have any questions? Any folks who got certified within the last year or any of our new members? Have any of our folks who have been certified in the last year completed those 3 trainings? Or do I need to remind you all to do that? Because I don't know that I knew that. I'm not a certified community health worker, so I just want to make sure that I'm helping with reminders of what our folks need to do. It is a yes or no question for you all. I'm gonna call you all out. Craig, Catherine, Lauren,
I
Latoya.
have not done the trainings yet, but I was just now reminded to do those, so I will make
Okay.
sure to get those done.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
If you need to contact us in any way, let me give you the email where you can contact us at. It's the chw.certification@ky.gov. And one of our team members will be glad to get back to you and help in any way
I
we
put the
can.
link to one of our handouts, Tracy, in the chat, and the first 3 trainings on there are the 3 legislative required trainings. So this was stated in your email that you got when you're certified, your letter. We do put reminders in the Coach Connection. It will not take you very long to do them. They're not like extensive trainings, and you will get CEUs. So the good thing is if you can, I shouldn't say if, when you complete the 3 trainings, you'll get a total of 2 CEUs that will go towards your 10-hour requirement. So that does help a little bit that you get CEUs. Is anyone here going to, Whitney, do you have anybody going to the conference next week? The
No.
CHW conference?
I don't think so. Our year just started last week, so yeah, it's not great timing, but is anybody going like with their health department on here? Do you all? I'm guessing no.
I
Well,
applied for a scholarship, but I never heard anything back, so I will not be going.
I do not know who's in charge of that committee. The scholarship committee, we can maybe look and see. But registration is still open if your health departments have funding available, and it's in Lexington, and it's a really great conference. I think we have about 400 people attending, and we have CHWs actually from 11 states coming this year. It's not just a Kentucky, so it's a really good opportunity, plus CEUs and all that. But if you can't come, that's okay. The association, like Tracy said, does quarterly meetings, and the way our CEU requirements are set up, it's if you attend the annual CHW conference plus the quarterly meetings, you should be able to get your 10 CEUs without having to look elsewhere. That's the way it was originally designed. Of course, we know that doesn't always happen. Things come up. You can't always attend all of those meetings. So there are a lot of trainings on the Train platform that are approved for CHW CEUs. I think you can search by CEU type on Train, so you should be able to search. Somebody did tell me the other day that there were a couple that are expired, so we need to go in there and I think it's like click a button to make sure that they are not expired anymore. But there are a bunch on there. And then, like Tracy said, definitely, and I can put the link in the chat to subscribe to the Coach Connection. We try not to spam your inbox, but it comes out twice a month. And that's really going to be your best bet to find CEUs, especially like the approved CEUs, because we post those in there every time, and you'll see it'll say like coach approved or something like that. So that's going to be your best bet if you're like, oh no, it's coming up, it's September, and I'm short, a couple of CEUs. That's going to be a great way to find them.
So one other thing, maybe to clarify for our folks who have been certified in the last year, their certification is it doesn't expire until October of 2026, I believe. Is that correct for our
It
folks?
depends on when were they certified. If they were certified in 2024, then they are due.
No, it's been within like our earliest, who would be on here?
If it was 2025, then they don't have to, their renewal's not till next year. Their first one, at least.
Lauren, you would have been, sorry to put you on the spot, you would have been our earliest person that got training, but your certification may not have happened until 2025. Does that
I
sound right?
got mine. I just recently, I want to say around May-ish, got my certification and everything all official and all that. But yes, you are right. My training was really early.
Okay. Yeah, so everybody, nobody got certified until 2025.
Well, then y'all don't have to worry about this
So
year.
if that's helpful for anybody, like Laura was saying, if you did all those quarterly meetings and then I know that would be waiting a little bit late, but the next year did the conference,
Mhm.
that could be an option if that were like a last minute thing if you needed to attend the conference next year.
I
So,
highly recommend if also a really good way to connect and meet other CHWs, because I know sometimes you may be I was a community health worker myself, and I was the only one at my site, and it can get a little lonely, especially if people don't really understand what you're doing. So on top of trying to do your work that's already really hard, you're also having to take two steps back to explain to like every other staff member why you're there, and what you're there for and what you're not there for. So it's really nice to connect with people who are doing the same work, and share struggles, but also like successes and tips and tricks and all that. So definitely recommend if you can become a member of the association and go to the quarterly meetings and or the conference. Renewal might be easier next year when we have a different system. So you don't need to worry about that just yet, but we'll have an entirely different system. So I think it'll actually go smoother.
okay, perfect. Any questions? Sorry to take up time for already certified folks. Any questions from our folks who will go through training and certification for the first time? Okay. Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate your time today. And I think I have a copy of your PowerPoint maybe from last year. So if there's nothing that has changed, then I have that to share with folks. But if there's anything that you feel like we should share out, I'll definitely take it. Peter, is there a specific deadline for as far as training or certification?
Sorry, my audio's acting up. For the certification, sorry.
Um, as far as like our like the AmeriCorps program goes, I mean, my hope is to have you certified before you finish the program. So that would be, July of next year. But I think Tracy and Laura would say just within that 3-year period of after you do the
Yeah,
training.
applications we take them on a rolling basis at the state. So, whenever you've met those qualifications and like Whitney said, if you're trying to finish it within a certain time period for, your AmeriCorps term of service, that I would refer to that deadline.
Any other questions? And if y'all think of something later, we can always reach back out to Tracy and Laura if I can't answer it, then I'll ask them. Or you all can reach out to. But thank you all again so much for being here. Appreciate your time. And thanks for always being such a helpful partner to our program. We really appreciate that we have the opportunity to train our folks and get them certified.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right. Okay, everybody, I'm gonna share it. Is everybody okay if I keep on going? I will say this, I'm gonna share my screen and I'm gonna go back to the couple of slides that I was not recording on. So if you need to take a quick break, go ahead because I'm just doing this since I am recording, I want to capture these couple of slides. Whoops. So if you need to take a little break for a second, I'm just gonna share them. I'm not gonna talk over them. Okay. Education award listed, loan forbearance information, teleservice terms, documentation is important. Maximum of 10% of time. The standards of conduct are listed in the member service agreement. And now prohibited activities. If you are a returning member, I hope that you have all these memorized because they're riveting. They're not at all for our new members here for the first time. But I do have to go over these. It's a requirement for me to do that, so bear with me. These are federal guidelines or federal regulations that you have to abide by while you are serving time as an AmeriCorps member and while you are at your service site and while you have on AmeriCorps gear. So today, AmeriCorps gear, yay. Hopefully you have on AmeriCorps gear. So you can do all of these things and you can do all of them at the same time, but you cannot do them while you're at your site. You cannot do them while you're quote unquote on the clock as an AmeriCorps member. But as soon as you step off your site and you are on your own free time, you are free to do whatever you want. So, just remember that as you are going through your service year, that while you're on the clock as a member, you are prohibited from attempting to influence legislation, organizing or engaging in protests, petitions, boycotts, or strikes. assisting, promoting, or deterring union organizing, impairing existing contracts or services or collective bargaining agreements, engaging in partisan political activities or other activities designed to influence the outcome of an election to any public office, and then the font gets really small. Participating in or endorsing events or activities that are likely to include advocacy for or against political parties, platforms, candidates, proposed legislation, or elected officials. Engaging in religious instruction, conducting worship services, providing instruction as part of a program that includes mandatory religious instruction or worship, constructing or operating facilities devoted to religious instruction or worship, maintaining facilities primarily or inherently devoted to religious instruction or worship, or engaging in any form of religious proselytization, providing a direct benefit to a business organized for profit, a labor union, a partisan political organization, a nonprofit that fails to comply with the restrictions contained in Section 501(c)(3) of the IRS Code of 1986 related to engaging in political activities or substantial amount of lobbying, except that nothing in these nine provisions shall be construed to prevent participants from engaging in advocacy activities undertaken at their own initiative, and an organization engaged in the religious activities described in paragraph G above, unless AmeriCorps assistance is not used to support those religious activities. And conducting a voter registration drive or using AmeriCorps funds to conduct a voter registration drive, providing abortion services or referrals for receipt of such services, and such other activities as AmeriCorps may prohibit. So you may engage in the above activities directly or indirectly by recruiting, training, or managing others for the primary purpose of engaging in one of the activities listed above. You may exercise your right as a private citizen and may participate in the above listed activities on non-AmeriCorps time. And while you're not wearing AmeriCorps logos or using AmeriCorps funds. Let me get through one more slide. In addition to the above activities, the below activities are prohibited. Census activities, you cannot participate in or engage in census activities during service hours, and election and polling activities, again, during AmeriCorps hours. Okay, so here comes the fun part. Wake back up if you were sleeping and not, if my voice put you to sleep there for a second. Come back alive because we're going to go through some scenarios. And if you were paying attention last year and you were a returning member, then you should know all of these because they have not changed. So this does require a little bit of participation. You can type in the chat, you can unmute yourself. But first scenario, during her free time, an AmeriCorps member has been frequently sharing her political position regarding the upcoming gubernatorial election on Facebook. The member's Facebook profile photo shows her wearing the AmeriCorps service gear issued by her program at the beginning of the service year. Is this a yay or a nay? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Look at y'all. Gold stars all around. I love it. You all are correct. I'm assuming the rest of you are sleeping because I put you to sleep with me talking through the prohibited activities. I'm kidding. Thank you all. All right, big no. Just if you're gonna talk about politics on your social media, just keep your stuff private and don't wear AmeriCorps gear while doing it. Thank you very much. Number two, after a series of tornadoes destroyed several small towns along the Mississippi River, a team of AmeriCorps members were deployed by the Federal AmeriCorps Agency to engage in disaster response. As part of the disaster response, several members were asked by a local pastor to recruit and manage volunteers who would provide spiritual counseling and prayer groups for the community to help citizens cope with the disaster. Yay or nay? We've got one nay. Y'all are on it. You get it. You cannot, again, you can do this on your own time, but you cannot do it as an AmeriCorps member. Number 3, following the destruction of a local church, a team of AmeriCorps members would like to volunteer to help clear away debris from the site so that reconstruction can begin. The members live in the community and they serve at a local nonprofit where many of the program staff and clients are members of the destroyed church. The members would volunteer on their own time with their families and friends to help the church. Yay or nay? Yay. Okay, Catherine, getting specific. Yes, I like it. Don't we hear Miracle shirt? You would want to keep it clean anyway. All right, big check mark. Number 4, the AmeriCorps members serving in a large after-school program want to petition the city's mayor. The members provide academic enrichment activities. The mayor is considering cutting subsidized public transit passes for youth attending after-school programs. The AmeriCorps members are concerned that their students will no longer be able to participate in the program. They argue that the city's budget has nothing to do with their AmeriCorps program and they should be allowed to petition the mayor and earn AmeriCorps service hours for doing so. Y'all get it. That was probably a little frustrating. It is to me. But they could do it on their own time. They just can't get AmeriCorps service hours from it. So good job. Thank you all. Thanks for participating there. As you could probably tell, the biggest issues, the biggest problem areas are doing prohibited activities on AmeriCorps time and wearing the logo and or representing AmeriCorps while doing those things. I think that we see that the biggest concerns for people are politics and religion. And um, I'll share a quick story. When I became an AmeriCorps Vista, I had a political bumper sticker on my car, and at the time you did training out of town, and I went I was on my way to a training, and I was very nervous about having that bumper sticker on my car, so I um, was at my brother's house, and I made him help me scrape the bumper sticker off my car. I didn't really need to do that. What I probably would have needed to do was to make sure I didn't put an AmeriCorps bumper sticker right next to that political bumper sticker. So that would have been an issue. But having a political bumper sticker or a religious bumper sticker on your car is not a problem unless you put an AmeriCorps bumper sticker right next to it. So you can be political, you can be religious, you just can't show an AmeriCorps logo right next to it. Any issues or questions about the prohibited activities before we move on? So going back to some of the issues that we might see when we have to suspend somebody from service. If you are facing an official charge of a violent felony or a sale or distribution of a controlled substance, or you are convicted of possession, then we do have to suspend you. If we can suspend you while those charges are playing out, but it is something that the federal AmeriCorps guidelines say that we do have to suspend you from service during that time. So we may suspend members when they are charged with other misdemeanors or felonies, or if you're in violation of multiple level 1 standards or one level 2 standard. So it says we may, it doesn't say that we must. It's a kind of a case by case scenario about what the your site and what our Serve Kentucky program officer feels like needs to happen. But you're always going to be involved in the conversation. If you do have to be suspended from service, you are not going to receive your living allowance during that time. If you're found not guilty or if the charge is dismissed, then on the first two suspension conditions, then you get reinstated. If you've been convicted of a first offense, the possession of a controlled substance, the guidelines say that you have to enroll in a drug rehabilitation program to be reinstated. If you've been convicted for more than one offense of a possession of a controlled substance, you have to successfully complete a drug rehabilitation program in order to be reinstated in the AmeriCorps program. And this is, again, all outlined in your member service agreement. We do have to occasionally release members from service for a compelling personal circumstance. And this might happen. So I'm going to look at my other screen because the font is larger and my eyes are not great apparently. If a member has a serious injury or illness that makes completing your term of service impossible, and that can include pregnancy, then we can release you for a compelling personal circumstance. If there's a serious illness, injury, or death of an immediate family member and you have to care for that family member or take over the duties of your family member, that's a compelling personal circumstance. If you're drafted into the service, that's a compelling personal circumstance. Or if there's something else that's not on here, but us, as in me, and our Serve Kentucky program officer deem it to be a compelling personal circumstance, then we can release you from service if that's what you want. So what happens in order to get to that point? We do have to show documentation. We have to keep that on file to show our federal partners. And you have to have served at least 15% of your hours in order to receive a prorated education award. If you haven't served 15% of your hours, you just don't get any of the education award. So those bottom three bullet points are not considered compelling personal circumstances. If you choose to enroll in school or you're already enrolled and you decide that this is too much for you, that's okay, but it's just not a compelling personal circumstance. You're just going to exit the program. You're going to break the contract and you don't get any portion of the education award. You don't get a payout for your living allowance, nothing. If you decide to take a job, maybe you've applied for something somewhere else and you accept employment with that other company, it's not a compelling personal circumstance. You don't get any of your education awards, you don't get payout. If you just decide you really don't want to be here and this is not working for you and you don't like your health department, not a compelling personal circumstance. Any questions, let me know. So being released from service for cause is very different than a compelling personal circumstance. Again, if you choose to leave, then you're leaving for cause. If none of those things on the previous slide are fitting. Um, if you are way behind on your hours and you're not working with us to get your hours up and it's obvious that you're not going to finish your term of service, then we can release you for cause. We'll talk with our program officer at Serve Kentucky. Everything has to be approved by them, but we can release you for cause for if you tell us that you're just not going to finish your term. If you are convicted of a felony or possession of a controlled substance, we can release you for cause. If there's an obvious pattern of misconduct or poor judgment that we can document, then we can release you for cause. There are multiple level 1 or 2 violations or one level 3 violation. And I think I'd said before, level 1 violations are things like no call, no shows, not communicating with me or your site supervisor that we can document. Those would be level 1. Level 2 are a little more egregious. And then level 3 is going to be like putting the safety of yourself or co-workers at your health department in jeopardy. breach of contract or confidentiality with clients that you're working with, that kind of thing. Egregious and gross violations of the standards of conduct are going to make you ineligible for future service position across all AmeriCorps programs. So the My AmeriCorps portal that you use to accept the position, that's accessible by all AmeriCorps programs across the country. So when we enrolled you and then when we exit you, it just pops up as you it shows me if you have completed a term of service before, if this is your first term of service. So if you were to be released for cause, and it's an egregious violation, then there's a button that I would say this person is not eligible to serve another term with AmeriCorps. If you are released for cause and your payment ceases, your living allowance ends, and you do not have access to your education award. Just some things to keep in mind that are finishing up our member service agreement. We are a drug-free workplace. You have your civil rights should not be violated. This is outlined in your member service agreement. There is a grievance procedure for both the service site, the health department, you as a member, and and then our program, Kentucky Public Health AmeriCorps, and you as a member. The dress code, as far as what you should have every day, is mostly just about AmeriCorps branding. So we have already gone over that. We do encourage you to vote if you're able to. We don't require you to do that and don't influence how you do it. You cannot count hours towards voting, but encourage you to take time in your schedule to do that. If you are an Armed Forces Reserved, you have time to do what you have to do. And then jury duty, you can accrue normal service hours for jury duty. And if something happens or if you are required to do that, just reach out to me and we'll talk about how to claim time on your timesheet. Okay, progress reports. So this is how we're going to be collecting data this year. This is new for our program, but it's really a big part of showing the impact that we make for our community, for the folks we serve, and just the work that you're doing, the service that you're providing. So this is in the America Learns Impact Suite. And why we're doing it is because we have to. We're not a Public Health AmeriCorps funded program anymore. We're just a regular old AmeriCorps program now. And with that comes some new data collection requirements. But again, it shows the impact that you have, the service you provide, and the health departments have in our communities across the state. So there are a couple different tools that you'll have available to collect data, but ultimately you're going to input it in America Learns. It's mostly just clicking boxes. So I hope that this doesn't feel overwhelming to you, and that you'll have tools available to you that will make it as easy and painless as possible. Okay, so the first one is that there are sign-in sheets. This I'm hoping can maybe actually, you know what? Let me pause. I'm gonna go into the other. I'm gonna show you what it looks like in America Learns first, and then I'll come back to that. I think that might be easiest. Okay, do you all see the big screen of America Learns?
Yes.
Okay, this is a pretty quick presentation. So the reports are going to be connected to your timesheet. So you're going to have to submit your report with your timesheet. So you can't not submit it. It's gonna force you to do it. So hopefully that's helpful. You can't miss it. It's gonna like force you to go to it. So, we've already seen that slide. We know that this is what the purpose is. All right, you've already done that. You know where to log in, how to reset your password if you need to. So each week you'll have a weekly progress report. It's going to be due the same day as your timesheet. You can't submit your timesheet unless you do your progress report. So if you want to get your time in, you got to do your progress report. So it's going to ask you where you serve, and the first time that you do this, it's going to then populate after that. And here's what we're going to be collecting. It's going to be two different categories: new folks that you're serving and returning people that you're serving. So, based on the number of new people that you're serving and the number of returning people that you're serving, it's going to be different questions different data that you're inputting. So this is a screenshot of data for new people. And there are, drop-down boxes, and the categories are pulled straight from the census categories. So, um, we did get rid of a couple of these. So head of household is not on here. And then each of these has a prefer not to say. So if you've got somebody who's just not interested in sharing information, that's fine. I think if this is hard to see, I apologize. It's hard for me to see. But it says race and ethnicity, age, and it's an age range, gender, household income range, number of children under 18, number of adults, highest level of education, veteran status, which program or programs they are accessing, and if it was a health education outreach event, what that was that you were participating in. And then our biggest thing that we're trying to capture is, have they increased their health knowledge, or do they intend to change their behavior? And it's just a yes or no. So that's pretty much it. You're gonna have so Lily asked how would this work if you do a community event where you're serving lots of individuals? So it's gonna like populate let me go back a slide. So this drop down box here, the new people, I can't remember what we go to. I think we go up to 50 people. So let me get through this and then I'll show you what I think is going to help get a hold of that, like if you've got a large group with you. So after you enter, once you do like person one, and you've got more people to enter, it'll keep going. So if you need to save and complete it later, you can save and complete later. Or you can save and um, upload now. Then you'll submit, and that's it. So let me go back to one other thing. Unlike the time, you cannot do your progress report on the app. It can only be done on the desktop. Yeah, Latoya, so there is going to be, just do the prefer not to say if you don't have their age. So the progress report can only be done, you can do it on your phone, but it's just going to be like the web page. It's not going to be within an app, so it's not going to look like the timekeeping system. Yes, Savannah. So let me go back to the other PowerPoint. Is there Yes, Lily, unfortunately, but I'm hoping that this will be helpful. And here is also what I will say. If you are doing events on a weekly basis that have that many people, then let me know and we'll figure something else out because this is new for us this year. Doing the data collection piece is brand new for us. So we're figuring some of it out too. Um, if this is not the best way for us to enter it, um, then we might need to brainstorm a little bit and go back to the drawing board and say maybe we need to edit with our America Learns team and figure out a better way to upload like large groups in one like fell swoop. Um, so Savannah and Lily, and I think Lauren as well. Lauren, are you still on here? How often are you all doing community events that are large people, or how often do you think you're going to be doing that? I know Lily and Savannah, you might not know the answer to that yet. So football games every Friday. Okay. Or that's 250 that you're hoping to get. All right. Lily and Lauren, do you know how many, like how often the community events are happening with the large groups of people?
Mine are at least once a month, if not every other month. And then it really depends on if the library is what they're doing and if I can go out to them and all that. So for sure, once a month, but it depends on how much once a month, if that makes sense, like how many I do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I feel like for me, it's going to be a lot more often than a month, like once a
Mm-hmm.
month, maybe once a week, because I know I'm going to be doing like farmers market things like Emily mentioned. So that may be a lot of people, but I'm also going to have days where I'm working with like individual or just like families.
Okay.
So it's going to be kind of as, it's going to be kind of like as, things pop up.
Yeah. So for Savannah, you and I might just need to kind of chat afterwards.
Yeah, I know. We have a lot of events, and I know Marcia is wanting me to get a lot out of doing the events. I was gonna ask if it was possible if I could make a Google form with all the questions and share that with people I'm serving that way and ask them to fill it out if they're okay with sharing their information. I'm just not sure. Because we do a wide range of events, like some of the things that I'm doing as part of this is like working with health coalitions through the different counties who are actively working to do policy and like do events. So some events I might be at will be like health department sponsored, others might be sponsored by the coalitions I'm taking part of. So I just want to make sure there's a way that like I can communicate like why I need to like take this data and how to take it like at the various type of events. So I'd be happy to create like a Google form. So like if people come up to a table when we're servicing them or doing something where it'd be like, hey, if you're comfortable, can you scan this and fill out this data that goes to me to then report to AmeriCorps? I don't know if that'd work, and I don't know if that's something they're okay with, but
I appreciate you all thinking about solutions to this. And Kara, I see what you're saying too about the barcode. Um, here's here's the thing. Like with a Google form, So let me, do y'all see like this sign-in sheet, like this piece of paper here? I know it's a little bit blurry, but this would be like a Google form. Here's the biggest barrier for me with and maybe for you all too with a Google form is that America Learns and Google don't talk to each other. So it would still be an extra layer of to do to get the information from Google into America Learns. So this sign-in sheet here is all that like that I just showed you in the America Learns portal. This would be like what you would hand a client or somebody at a community event and say, it says, thank you for being here. Please complete as much of the sign-in form as you are comfortable filling in. We'll not share any identifiable information with partners. While we are asking for this information, we are a grant-funded program, and it's helpful for us to report on the services we provide. If you'd like to learn more about what we do, visit the website. So with that being said, if you are interested in like having a like a QR code and Google Forms, I can do that. It's just one more step. Yes, Lily. It is something. So this like paper sheet could be printed out, filled out prior to an event, like the top part, and then like on a clipboard at events for participants to fill out, or inside health departments for folks who are coming to inside health departments um, to fill out, or if there are. Yes, Craig, that's fine too. So if you have people that are coming in that you know this information about, you can fill that out too. And I'm going to click over to the next slide. So this is a Word document that all of these boxes are like drop-down boxes. So for people who you know are not going to complete anything on their own, you could do this one yourself, the one pager, for the people you know that are coming in, who you know are not going to stay there and fill anything out, or people that are coming up at a community event who you know are not going to hang out and fill anything out. You could still do this yourself for that person so that you could at least capture some kind of data. Or you can use this second form that has drop down boxes and fillable like check marks. So I don't know that this solves Sabina's problem of having 250 people at a time, but so Lily asks, this might be an obvious answer, but would participants who simply come up to my table to get free stuff and flyers need to be documented? Um, in an ideal world, as many people as you can, it would be helpful, but I think if they're just like a flyby grabbing something, no. But if it were me, I might say, hey, collect, I'm trying to complete data here, or however you want to say it, and give them the option. And if they're just like, meh, then you might just like make a note of how many like flyby people you had. And we can review that in a couple months and see if that's data that is worth us trying to report on and collect. It might just not really be worth it at all. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Lily. Thank you for asking that. And I'm trying to be as upfront with you all as I can. Having come from a couple of other programs, the data collection piece for people, um, when it's quantitative versus qualitative and having good data, it's hard. Especially when you're trying to think about measuring behavior change and when we don't necessarily have good ways to track beginning and end and staying on the course with the same people. So this really is going to be a first time learning thing. Cairo, I really wish that we could. I really like America Learns, but I don't know that we'll continue to use their data collection system because but we've already paid for it, so we're gonna have to use it this year. So, um, I think that their data collection methods are just a little bit lacking, is what I'm learning, and I think that we could probably do a little bit. We're just gonna have to use them this year. Um, yeah, thank you, Craig. I appreciate that. Showing that we are worthwhile is really the point. Um, Thank you, Caro, for understanding that. I love Google Forms, and I think that it might truly be like if we had a barcode or a QR code or something that talked a little bit easier. It might work better. But I appreciate you all trying to, share with me what's working and what's not. And we'll see how it goes. I don't want you all to spend an exorbitant amount of your time inputting data into America Learn. So if in the middle of the year we say America Learns inputting is not working, we just need to go to our paper sheets. We'll see how it goes, but it's the way it works for me to report out, like I have to report through America Learns to our state service commission, and they in turn report to our federal partners at Federal AmeriCorps. So that's why everything has to eventually go into America Learns because they pull it directly from America Learns. So to give you all a little bit of the back end part of it. Um, so these forms will be on the website, the CADA website, um, at the bottom of the page where the calendar of events is and where a copy of the member service agreement lives. So if at any time you need these, they're available to you. They'll just be Word documents so that you can download and edit. Again, this is the form, the one that you're seeing right now on your screen. It is fillable, like it's just drop down, select one, and it matches the America Learns sections. So we'll check in about this again at our first October check-in. So you're not going to have to input any data for the month of September. We won't start until October. So you've got a little bit of time to maybe review these sheets and think about maybe some barriers or some issues that you might have. Bring them to me and I won't turn on the data collection piece for your progress reports until October. But thank you all so much for talking through and sharing some ideas and some thoughts and some concerns with me. All right, I'm gonna keep checking. There are 2 trainings that are virtual that you do on your own time. On3Learn does these. I think they're helpful, and it's going to be a recap of things we've already talked about. So I'll send this out in our recap email. It'll try to make you pay for it unless you put in that code, the KYSUB23, and make sure you link yourself to us, KYPHA. And the two trainings are AmeriCorps 101 for members and prohibited activities. I've definitely sat through worse trainings. I have to do this myself, so they're pretty painless, but all members have to do them. So again, I'll send out the recap so that you have that live link there. And just some reminders about some member development things that we'll do this year. All member development trainings is going to go towards training on your timesheet. And it's going to be community health worker training. That's going to go under CHW training. And then we'll do those monthly virtual member meetings, MLK Day of Service. That's going to be service, not training. The Kentucky AmeriCorps Accelerator in October. I think we'll do member roundtables again this year. I haven't heard yet from our Serve Kentucky partners, but it's an opportunity. There's a slide on it later, so I'll save it. I will begin to reach out to you and your site supervisor to schedule my in-person site visit. I really enjoy that. I love coming to see you all in person, especially this year where there's limited opportunity for me to come and see you in person. So I want to hurry up and get those scheduled and come and see you all. And hopefully our end of year celebration will be in person. We've already done this CHW training. So our monthly virtual member meetings, we've talked about this already. I'll be sending out a calendar invite so that hopefully you don't forget about it. And I'll try to remember to send you email reminders like the day before it happens. But first Wednesday of the month is what I've got them scheduled for right now. The Kentucky AmeriCorps Accelerator is October 22nd. It's virtual, and it is a good opportunity to network. I know that's a little harder to do online. It's usually in person, but anyway, there's some good topics, some good training topics, breakout sessions, and you'll meet our Kentucky commission staff, see who they are, see our program officer, and those kinds of things. Our site visits, I just check in, meet you in person, see your site, make sure you're on track. If you have any needs, whatever they may be, just make sure that everything's going okay. And you take me on a tour of your site. For some of you, it will be the first time that I've ever been at your health department. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Martin Luther King Jr. Service Project. So just mark your calendars, January 19th. You just create a service project outside of your regular service site. Your health department's closed that day, so you couldn't do it there anyway. Start brainstorming now. It's great if you can partner up with other AmeriCorps members in your area so that you don't have to do stuff on your own. This is a picture from an AmeriCorps project like I don't know, 3 years, 4 years ago, with members from a couple different programs that came together to put together some supply bags for folks. Again, the member roundtables, the AmeriCorps state folks will invite members to participate so that they can get an idea of what members are experiencing through training, their day-to-day activities with their service sites, just a chance to get to learn about members' experiences and see what's going on, and if they have any concerns that they might not be comfortable sharing with their service site or with their program director. And then just maybe, get to meet some other people that are participating in programs. End of year celebration. We try to get together in person so that we can celebrate your accomplishments and share information about education award, career resources, all kinds of things. Get one of the what hoodies, Jessica? Now I need to go back and see. These hoodies? Is that the one you're talking about, that one? That must be. Those are really old, and you don't want those. They're not very nice quality. What you got this year is way better. I'm telling you. I think those came from a different program. And they they were not very nice sweatshirts, I promise you. Um, I think we're about to wrap up office hours and meeting with me. So, and it hopefully it doesn't sound like too much time with me, but in addition to our group monthly check-in, I do want to make sure that I'm checking in with you one-on-one. So in case there's anything going on that I need to know about, or if you just have questions that you'd rather ask me separately, this can be as informal as like just texting. It can be a quick phone call, or we can do a Zoom. So I am going to reach out to you to set up the monthly check-in. Hopefully, it can be like the same time every month, the same day, same time. But if it needs to change, just let me know, and I'll do a calendar invite so that it stays on our calendars. And it just needs to be like a really quick check-in. If it needs to be longer, it can be. So just keep an eye out for that. And our last thing is to take the actual AmeriCorps pledge. So yeah, so Lily has a question about timekeeping. If you're commuting to events that take however long it takes to get to those events, you should most definitely include that in your time. Any time that it takes to get somewhere that you are participating as an AmeriCorps member, travel time is always included. So thank you for asking that, Lily. If your site is asking you to go somewhere, please include that travel time. Any other questions before we all come off mute and take the AmeriCorps pledge together? Okay. Are you all ready to take the pledge? Peter's asking about lunch. So I don't need to see that you take a lunch break. It doesn't have to be reflected, especially like if you're just like at your desk taking a lunch break. It, I'm really not that concerned about seeing that time. I mean, if your site is worried about you showing a break, let me know. I can chat with your supervisor. But as far as AmeriCorps time is concerned, especially you, Peter, because your time is a 900-hour time. You're not going to be there that long anyway. So I mean, you shouldn't need to have to reflect a 30-minute break. Any other questions? Okay, y'all, let's take this pledge. And then um I really forgot to take a picture yesterday of like virtual everybody off camera. So I'm gonna ask you all one favor. If y'all would take a picture of yourselves at your site and send that to me, I would really be appreciative because again, while we're really not in person that much this year, I just don't have much opportunity to take pictures. So I would love it if you all could help me with that. It's hard to get pictures to promote our program and to share information about what you all are doing. I will really be appreciative and I will thank you so much if you can text me pictures, you can email them, whatever you want to do, just in your AmeriCorps gear at your site. I will thank you so much. So let's come off mute and take our AmeriCorps pledge and then say goodbye for the day.
Start reading it or
Okay, I'll count down. I'll go from 5 and at 1 we'll say the pledge. And
Do you want our
y'all,
cameras on as well?
oh, you can. I can't really see everybody because my
Oh,
screens are
okay.
taken up, but it's up to you all. Okay, I'm gonna count down from 5. And I'm not gonna say it because I've already said it 8,000 times. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Getting
Getting
things
Done
done
for
for
America
America
to
to
make our people
make our
safer,
people
Smarter,
safer,
smarter, and
smarter,
healthier.
and
We'll
healthier.
bring
We'll
Americans
bring
together to
Americans
strengthen our
together to strengthen our
communities. Faced with
communities.
communities.
advocacy, I will take
I will
action.
take
Faced
action.
with
Face
conflict,
with
I will seek
conflict,
common
I will seek
ground.
common
Faced with
ground.
Voice
adversity,
of
I will
adversity,
Adversity,
I
I
will
will
carry
I will carry this
carry
commitment
this
this
with me
commitment
commitment
with me
with
this
me
year and
and
this
be
year
be
and
an
be
American
an
member, and
American
I will
member,
get
and I
things
will
American
get
done.
things
member, and I will
done.
get things done.
Yay! Thank you all so much. I'm so excited for this year. I appreciate y'all being here. And let's just be on the lookout for recap email. And I will upload this to YouTube for anything that you missed. And if you have any questions, please reach out. And again, thank y'all for being here. And I'll be talking to you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Whitney, do you want me to stay on so we can talk about the large events?
Yeah, sure, we can.
Oh,